What's the creepiest or most unexplainable thing you've ever seen that you haven't shared anywhere? Serious. Back in 2016 my mother was staying at my place because my father was in the hospital at the time and my apartment was right next to the hospital. One night I had this dream that the landline rings and my mother answers the phone and hears the news that my dad has passed away. She hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle, a doctor at the hospital my father was in, just gave her the news of my father's passing. I wake up startled. I have a drink of water, and just as I start feeling relieved that this was all just a bad dream, the phone rings and my mom picks it up. I was just watching her from a distance, noticing the expression on her face, noticing the tears that started dripping down her cheek, and she hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle just told her that my father has passed away. This is the only unexplained thing that ever happened to me, and this is the first time I share this with anybody. Rescued a blue tick coonhound that had bad anxiety when we left, so he had to be crated. Went to the grocery store with wife and 2 young kids and left the dog in the crate. When we got back, the dog was out of the crate, but the crate was completely closed and latched. There was no apparent way it could have happened. We problem solved it for the entire day and couldn't figure out how he did it. Called him Blue Denny after that. His unmatched escape skills continued though. He could open doors. No fence could hold him in. The dog simply climbed fences. We ended up rehoming him for his own safety. He actually wound up as a farm dog, which I'm sure was his best home. I got recalled into work and was driving at about 3 AM. I was in a very rural area in western Washington. As I come around a curve I see a woman in a nightgown on the side of the road looking up at a steep embankment. Just standing there staring away from the road. There are no homes nearby, not for miles. I call 911 and pull over about a minute up the road not knowing what to think. Deputy showed up, couldn't locate anyone, and was as dumbfounded as I was. My father died when I was 15. In my freshman year of college, me and my roommate in the dorms were somewhat close, but really had only been known each other for a month when the Rowley creepy thing Rowley happened. I hadn't told her much about my childhood, but she knew that my father had passed. One day she woke me up and asked me, "Did your father used to call you, insert silly childhood nickname here?" I hadn't heard that name since I was 6 or 7. I definitely never told her that he used to call me that, as it was a repressed memory that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Anyway, as it turned out, she had a dream that my father had come to her and asked her to take care of me, calling me by this silly childhood nickname. It was always difficult for me that my father never saw me graduate high school or start college, but I guess he did, from wherever he is now. When I was about 9, in the 1970s, I was playing football in the street. A bus came along, so I jumped up on the pavement. As it passed I noticed my aunt and she smiled and waved to me. When the bus had gone I carried on playing. I went home several hours later to find my aunt had died the previous evening. I was 10/0 riding my bicycle at dusk along the road I lived on, which was parallel to a set of railroad tracks. I moved off the road as a car sped by and a drink bottle came sailing at me from the front passenger seat. I could see 2 young women turned around laughing at me through the back window. I flipped them off and kept riding. About 30 seconds later, I heard the train slam into them. When I was about 11 or 12 I went with my friend and my younger brother to play football in a park that was in a pretty remote place, so there were never many people. Basically 3 or 4 people came dressed in like Victorian style clothes, set up a box underneath a tree with big branches, tied a rope around it. One of them stood there with this noose around his neck, and then his friend kicked the box, so he was hanging. They took turns doing this, and we left. Was super weird thinking back to it, and I have to check with my brother whenever I think about it to make sure it actually happened. Edit. For people asking how did they not die? They were taking turns etc. From what I remember, the box mustn't have been particularly high relative to the length of the rope, so there wasn't much of a drop if any. I don't remember how long they were swinging for, but I suppose it must have been between 15 seconds to a minute. Then the friends would put the box back for the one hanging to stand on, so they could get down, and someone else would take their place. In my mother's house, The basement light would turn on while we were away, and even if it was turned off before we left, it was somehow back on when we got back. Once I went downstairs and was like, hey Mr. Ghostman, this is not good for the bills, could you PLS chill it with the lights? Yes, I know it's dark down here, okay thanks. Light stayed off. Edit. Holy Christ, more than 2 people upvoted me, what? Also, no, I have not seen Parasite. She lives in a small townhome and the basement is small, bare, and open. If someone could hide in there, I'd be extremely impressed given the complete lack of hiding spaces. When I get the chance, I'll give her a nightlight for Mr. Ghost when I see her. It's what he deserves. Also, if we did have a squatter, that person wouldn't be able to hide very long. My dog and 2 cats live there, all of which are very alert to strangers, smell or looks, especially the dog. My friend and I were sleeping in my parents' room one night when she was over, and it was probably about 3 AM. Suddenly we hear a sound like a fart from the corner of the room, and distinctly from this one corner, so I ask my friend if she farted, and of course she says no, as it clearly came from that corner, thinking maybe it's my dogs as they sometimes sleep in my parents' room. I go and check it out, but realize they're not in the room with us. Okay, so that's weird, I thought. And my friend also said she heard a distinct fart too, so we assumed that maybe we both misheard. Then all of a sudden an unknown caller starts ringing my phone and I don't answer, because at this point I'm freaked the frick out. After I decline the call, I receive a message from an unknown caller with the same area code as the caller who had just called me. The text message is all in Spanish and my friend decides to paste the text into Google Translate, where it proceeds to say, "Did you hear that fart?" Needless to say, we never slept in my parents' room again. And we are convinced that we have a Spanish farting ghost in our presence. Edit. No brothers, that would have pranked me either. I have a sister, but she was as amused as I was when I told her. Freaky crap. My dorm hall had some weird crap happen. But one of the weirdest was that I went to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. The sink was right next to the entrance, and as I washed my face, I saw and heard the door open and noticed a figure move to the end of the stalls. I figured a girl had just come in to use the bathroom. I dry off my face and begin brushing my teeth, but realized I didn't hear anyone else. I checked each stall and no one was in there. I quickly grabbed my stuff and noped out. I was working in a retail store in a pretty sketchy area. There was this lady who was obviously a heavy drug user, or ex-drug user. She must have been in her 50s or 60s. She was notorious on my block for being a crazy, but she'd visit me all the time, and told me she thought I was cute. It was really bizarre cause she looked like a crackhead, but she'd act like a teenage girl around me. I tried to be nice to her cause she was known for being volatile. Anyway, on Christmas Eve she packed an entire Christmas dinner which she told me was all home-cooked Guyanese food and a cologne set. As she was leaving, she just squats down on the floor and throws her hand up and starts cackling. Yes, cackling which faded to a giggle. Never saw her again. Edit. Yes, I ate it, and I enjoyed it. Confirmed with some Guyanese redditors. Main dish was definitely pepper pot. Second edit. So a lot of you seem really surprised I ate the food. Some describing it as insanity, some as a mark of true bravery. Let me be very clear, the point of the post wasn't even about me eating the food. I'd basically take free food from a stranger any given day of the week. From the moment she handed me the food, I knew I was going to eat it. Neither the prior knowledge of her being a druggie nor any action she would take after handing me the food was going to change this. I was in my final year at uni, and I worked as a TA for a language prof. This meant teaching 1-hour sessions multiple times a week. I basically lived in the known to be haunted humanities building. One Tuesday after my final class and before my first lesson of the evening, I was in the staff room heating up my crappy microwave dinner. A woman I had never seen before came in. Obligatory oblem just scooch past and check the time on the coffee machine. Now I found it odd that this university employee came here just to check the time on the coffee machine. You don't have a phone, computer / watch clock. But who am I and my lean cuisine to judge? She looks at the time on the coffee machine and says, "That can't be right. What time is it?" Me, it's 5:37. HMM 5 minutes fast. Okay. With that she left, and although a bit odd, I didn't dwell on the interaction. That is, until 1 week later, Tuesday evening, I was again heating up my food when she enters. Obligatory Oakland just scooch past you and check the time. That can't be right. What time is it? I look at my phone. It is exactly 5:37. I tell her, and once again she says 5 minutes fast. Okay, and leaves. I'm deeply unsettled. The microwave dings. I take my lean cuisine and quickly head upstairs. Never saw that woman again. Edit. Thanks for the yikes award. Exactly my feelings. Edit 2. You'll thinking this was Wisconsin. But it was Missouri. I was probably 18 years old and was driving at night to see a friend. This man kind of jumped in front of the car to make me stop. He honestly looked crazy. I slowed down the car to almost stop and he moved to talk to me, I think through the window. But I just drove off once he got out of the way. I was so creeped out. I never told anyone because I felt guilty that I didn't help him. It's been almost 10 years and I still don't have anything that's somewhat close to an explanation what happened then. My bestie and me were sleeping over at her grandma's house and enjoying the newly renovated attic as it was supposed to become her little teenager apartment. All new furniture with a huge comfy couch and nice clean board screwed to the wall, all in white pink. Sleepover went just like you would imagine it, with two 15-year-old girls painting nails, watching DVDs, and talking about the hottest gossip at school. It was already like 3 AM when we decided to go get some sleep and left the room to sleep in the bed next door. Only a few minutes later we heard a little scratching sound followed by a loud bang, clearly coming from the room we just left. One of the boards that were screwed to the wall was lying on the floor, almost 4 meters away from where it was supposed to be. Not like screw broke and it fell. Nope. Solid 4 meters away from that wall. Almost 2 centimeters deep hole in the ground where the board was laying. The holes in the wall looked like something grabbed that board and pulled it straight out, ripping the wood and concrete it was drilled to. Still getting goosebumps remembering it. Here is a creepy / weird story. During a road trip from NJ to NC, my friend and I decided we were hungry and went looking for food in a town in Maryland. I don't remember the name of the town, but it felt very strange as soon as we pulled onto the main road, as there didn't seem to be any people out and about. It was the middle of the day, but no one was walking around. There weren't any restaurant food options other than a pizza place. So we pulled up and parked in front of the pizza place. It seemed like everyone in the town must have gone to that pizza place. When we parked the car, everyone in the restaurant turned and looked at our car through the big glass windows. Like, at the same time, they stared at us. We stared at them. It felt so weird that I said, I don't want to go in there. My friend just nodded at me wide-eyed, and we drove to another town for lunch. Why was seemingly the whole town in that pizza place? What was with the staring? I'm almost a little sorry we didn't go in to find out, but at the same time not sorry at all. I just wanted to do a quick edit because I want to answer everyone's questions. As much as I would like to address them individually, I don't think I will be able. I wish I knew the name of the town. I think I never actually knew it. This story takes place 20 years ago. Google wasn't a thing. I think I had a beeper. I was new to driving. So using a paper map, my equally young and unexperienced in travel friend and I drove through the western part of Maryland to avoid major cities en route to Asheville, North Carolina. After reading everyone's comments, I agree we probably stumbled on a small town party or a very busy lunch hour. It just felt so scary to us at the time. I agree it seems Lovecraftian / Stephen King-esque. I also hope we weren't going to be on the next day's menu. No, we were two 17-year-old white girls with dark brown hair. This was midday. I was driving. No headlights. I hope this answers everyone's questions. I'm going to go enjoy Friday night as best as I can with some Moscow mules and hope everyone is staying safe. I was in bed at night, woken up by the sound of steps on my roof tiling. I think I was about 13 at the time. I see a shadow walk past my skylight, unsure of what it was. I look outside my side window and see a man dressed in all black looking out from the construction scaffolding. After a while he looks into my window and I try to hide. My brother also saw him. We never found out what happened to him, but the police were informed. When I was a kid I was playing in our kitchen when I saw a huge dark figure walk past the kitchen and down the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I walked to our back patio and saw the rest of my family watching TV. The patio is on the opposite side of the house from the hallway. I walked to the hallway and started looking for who it could have been, but never found anyone. Still have no idea who or what it could have been, but it's always creeped me out thinking about it. I never make it in time to answer these, and have pretty much kept this story to myself. I remember telling one person who told me don't repeat that. Don't mess with whatever that was, so I didn't. I guess read at your own risk. When I was 10 I went with my parents to this campground so they could visit their friends. They had a son who I got along with. Same age. Sometimes however if there was other kids around the son would try and pick on me to impress them. Me and the son went fishing. And right as we are about to leave another kid comes and joins us and the son immediately starts picking on me, not wanting to be stuck on a boat, and I decided to leave and walk back to the campground by myself. I didn't want to go straight back to my parents because they'd ask why I wasn't with the son. And I didn't want to get into it, so I just walked on this U-shaped road. In the center of the U are campers, and on the other side is woods with a lake around it. At the very center of the U is a park. Perfect. I think I'll just sit on the swings until I think enough time has passed to go back. As I'm on the swings I notice a path directly across from me. I get up and start walking along this dirt path. There are reeds on either side of me, and I have my hands stretched out as I walk dead center of this path. My hands can just barely touch these reeds unless I move closer to one side. I walk for about 10 minutes maybe, and I get to this pond. Crystal clear water and I have this urge to drink it. It looks so refreshing. I kneel down and suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. It was like I snapped back into myself. What am I doing? Why am I about to drink pond water? Why did I walk down this path? I start feeling really uneasy, so I turn around and start walking the same way I came. Let me clarify. There was only one path. Straight. I made no turns. I didn't walk around this pond. I simply walked to the end of the path, got freaked out about something and turned around. Suddenly all types of bugs were now around. I kept walking, and I noticed the dirt path is getting more and more narrow. The reeds and tall grass are now at my arms, and there's a constant buzzing feeling in my ears from these bugs. The path gets so narrow that I have to walk sideways to avoid the reeds. I yell out help, and I hear a voice ask if I'm okay. I reply I'm lost, and a woman says just walk straight honey, I see you. I see nothing, it's just tall grass and reeds. I walk a few feet and see the road. I'm scratched from head to toe, and there's a woman by the playground asking what happened. She takes a Kleenex out of her pocketbook and starts wiping some of the scratches, and I tell her what happened. I look behind me and see no path. I'm at the same park. I'm in front of the swing I was just on. The woman looks at me and tells me that I shouldn't even think about it and to just forget it happened because I'm fine now. But she really emphasized not to talk about it. I've always been on the fence about it. I'm sure there was one path in and one path out. The bugs could have steered me off course. Maybe me being paranoid? Or something more sinister that nearly trapped me for good. Mine's pretty minor. I was awake one summer night with my window wide open to try to cool my room, and I heard this gigantic droning sound appear out of nowhere and remained for a few minutes. Sounded like it was coming from just outside my window above the road. It was one of the loudest sounds I've ever heard. Didn't sound like a helicopter. There wasn't that chop of blades in the air, and once it had stayed for a few minutes, it faded away, like it was going up into the air. Never heard anything like it since. My father was my grandmother's favorite child out of 6, partially because he was by far the youngest out of 10 children. She nicknamed him Little Mountain, as the last character in his Chinese name was Shan, or Mountain. I remember going to her funeral when she passed, and we were burning paper money for her to use in the afterlife for Taiwanese/Chinese tradition. I vividly remember watching my dad picking up a scrap of half-burnt money and making a sort of strangled noise. It was burnt in such a way that it resembled the character Shan, even down to the middle prong being longer than the other two. I'm seriously not religious or superstitious, but that was probably the closest I ever got to believing in the supernatural, or at least ghosts. When I was 5, me and my identical twin sister both caught scarlet fever. We are from America, but my dad's project had temporarily relocated us to India, and we were not used to the water and food there. We both fell into a coma towards the end of the fever. One day I woke up to my mom and aunt screaming and crying and holding my sister because she was unresponsive and not breathing. They were doing chest compressions, CPR, etc. But nothing was working. I was desperately trying to get their attention because I was young and didn't understand what was going on. I went back in my room to go back to sleep, but in the corner of the room where my sister's bed was, I saw her laying there, breathing fine. I went back out to the living room and realized I was looking at myself in my mom's arms as she tried to revive me. Eventually, I saw my eyes flicker open, and then everything went dark. I woke up a few weeks later in the hospital next to my sister and mom, who ended up catching it because of us. My mom told me I had almost died, and they were trying to wake me up, but I was unresponsive. So the ambulance took all 3 of us into the ICU. To this day, I'm still unsure how I witnessed my almost death. I laid down to sleep one night. It always took me forever to fall asleep, as I'd have to breathe deeply for an hour to relax enough to drop off. A few minutes after I got into bed, the door to my room flew open with a bang. I heard something quite large and noisy stomp around the open area of my room. Even felt a breeze that ruffled my hair. And then my door slammed shut and all was quiet. I was paralyzed with fear for a long time. Never got up to investigate due to sheer terror. No one else was home. Edited to @ sleep paralysis is a really good suggestion as to why this happened. But I don't think it was. First, I had only been in bed a few minutes. And since it always took me a very long time and effort to get to sleep, I'm absolutely sure I had not slept. Second, I had sleep paralysis for about 10 years. But had trained my body to no longer have it. My method was to never sleep on my back and never take naps. Once my sleep schedule got regular and could sleep on my side, I rarely had sleep paralysis. But if I did have it on occasion, I used my mad zen skills to calm myself and my breathing down and go to my happy place. Once it was no longer scary, I never had it again. And I haven't had it in about 20 years at this point. Edit 2, thanks for the silver. Running through a large field in the middle of a nice neighborhood on Halloween night. Got gassed sprinting halfway and reached out to hold onto a tiny tree. Felt what I can only describe as claws like bugles on your fingertips wrap around my hand. Noped the FK out and ran back to my group of friends. There were no leaves because it was full, so I still have no clue what it was. Well, I think I may have shared this once before, but I was driving with someone through a very odd, small town in Arizona. As soon as we entered the city limits, I felt this extreme heaviness, very surreal, dark, almost like a shroud of evil. As soon as we exited the limits, we both, not having spoken in a few minutes, said, "Did you feel that?" We both did. It was really weird. About a month later, I was reading Time magazine, I think it was Time, and there was an article about that town, and how it is so well known for cult-like polygamy and child marriage, etc. That explained a lot. I work as an adult novelty store manager with a theater, so please envision the kind of customers I get. I had this regular who was nice enough, and we always exchanged pleasantries and small talk. One day we said goodbye, and as he went to leave he stopped dead in his tracks and came back to the counter. He told me that he ignores it every time, but today it wouldn't let him. So naturally I ask, what the hell is he talking about? He proceeds to tell me that there is an older black man who is with me 24/7. He sees him every time I'm in the store. The older black man just stands next to me watching me and smiling. At that point a chill ran up my spine, because no one in that store knows besides my boss that I'm half black and my 65-year-old black father that I was so close to passed in 2014. I said the usual wow and oh my god, so I wouldn't give anything away, to see what else he says to see if it's legit. The customer proceeds to tell me that the man, my father, is sad about his kids not doing what he's asked them to do, and one particular child I has greatly disappointed him. The man, my father, also wants the customer to tell me how much he loves his wife, even though she's married again. At this point I have tears in my eyes because how would this man know there's conflict between me and my siblings because of my dad's death? How would this man know my mother is married again? He kept mentioning that he could feel a strong religious pull with my father. My father was a preacher. He told me a bunch of other things and asked if I was pregnant. I told him no, but apparently my next child will have my father's soul according to him. My 2-year-old son looks like my father and loves his favorite songs. I have never seen that man again. I used to live in the middle of nowhere. The town had less than 200 people in it. I used to work through the night in one of the metro areas, and it was about a 40-minute drive with about 15 of it on a county road. I used to think I would see crap in the fields, coyotes, deer, etc. all the time. Never thought twice. Well, one morning I was on my way home, about 3 AM, and we had a little bridge to cross right before we got to our road. As I'm closing in on crossing the bridge I can see something pearl white just hanging out in the middle of the road. Thought it was probably a swan, and it would move. As I got closer I realized that swans are not that big. I was in a ref 150, and it was at eye level with me. When its wings opened up it literally covered both lanes of traffic. I swerved to miss it, but hit some of the wing. I slammed on my brakes and turned around. Whatever it was 100% gone without a trace. Never saw it again. If it was a bird, that's the freaking biggest bird I have ever seen. Oh, and I did not alive by anything considered to be a large body of water. Edit. The only thing I can describe it as a humongous crane. But the only area where cranes live close to that old house was about 5 hours away. Edit. Grandma. When my daughter was very young, 3, 4, we were on a family vacation in a state park lodge. Our room had exposed wood ceiling beams to match the decor. Important later. It was supposed to be nap time for my daughter, but she was quietly playing by herself and just chatting away, and the wife and I were eating on the other bed. Out of the blue my daughter turns to me and asks for a piece of rope. I asked why she needed the rope and she nonchalantly replies it is for my friend, the purple girl on the ceiling. My wife asks what friend? And my daughter responds I've been talking with the little purple girl hanging from that wood up there. She asked me for another piece of rope. Needless to say that nap time was over, and we quickly exited the room. Back when I was 9 or so, me and my friend were having a sleepover. His parents were at a dinner, and his brother was out getting stoned somewhere. Anyways, it was probably 9 PM. His parents had just called and said that dinner had turned into drinks, and they would be out for a little while longer. Anyways, we were young, playing Minecraft on the Xbox 360. When we heard his front door open, it had a very noticeable noise when it opened. Very creaky, almost eerie so. We thought oh it's probably just your brother, and kept playing, thinking nothing of it. Then, we heard footsteps on the floor above us. We once again thought nothing of it, seeing as his kitchen was above the basement, where we were playing games, and his brother was likely there for mid-high munches. But then, we heard another set of footsteps. We were confused at this point, but we didn't worry as it was either his parents or a stoner friend of his brother. We then heard a scratching at the basement door. We both looked at each other like, is that just me, or is there a scratching? He didn't have any pets, so, me being the oldest by 2 months, went to go check. I opened the door and there was nothing there. I yelled upstairs to his brother, let's call him Jim. Jim, you're not scaring us. Stop it. No reply. So I sat back down and continued playing. Now, there was a scratching on the window. We were honestly terrified, and we stayed seated. One of us looking at the door, the other looking at the window. Then, again, scratching at the door. I opened it with a baseball bat in hand, and nothing. We barricaded the door, and put things in front of the window. We didn't hear anything for the next half an hour, and eventually fell asleep. The next morning his dad came down and knocked on the door and tried to get into the basement. We took down the barricade and his dad came into the room, furious. Why the hell did you guys rip open the screen door? We went upstairs and sure enough, the front door screen was shredded. We tried to convince him that it wasn't us and that the brother had done it to scare us. But what he said next made our blood run cold. Jim wasn't home at all last night. We dropped him off in the city with his friends. My friend's house was half an hour away from the city, and none of the people at his friend's house had cars. Me and my friend looked at each other and couldn't speak. Needless to say, his parents didn't believe us. They called my parents, and me and my friend had to split the cost to have the basement door replaced. It had tons of scratch marks as well, and the screen door replaced. Me and my friend still bring this up to this day whenever we meet. Edit 1. Holy crap, I had no idea this would blow up. Fact, did you get your money back? A. Yes, I got my money back after they moved. Fact, could it have been an animal? A. Yes. It's a possibility. Although when I opened the door I didn't see anything.